to sign our floor again, and welcome to those who are newbies as well. Folks, in Roman Catholic liturgy, one of the highest solemnities that we can celebrate is the dedication of a church. And that's because churches are very important to us. But when we dedicate a church, and hopefully you'll hear this in this prayer tonight that I offered to begin our night together, it is both celebrating the building of a church with a small c and building a church with a capital C. Okay? So while an abbot or a bishop can go around and anoint walls and sprinkle walls and can polish in the brand new altar, wonderful. If you listen closely to the readings and to the prayers, it's about dedicating our hearts. The church with a capital C, that is the people of God. And so I think we did it with great, great gusto. I will say very little about the dedication of this church because that would be another 2.5 hours. Okay? And so that is, I will put it in a new form that you can watch the recording of that for those of you who would want that. We have that all in our archives. I'm just going to speak about what brought us up to that moment. And so we echo those prayers to the church. And we do that in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O God, who year by year renew for us the day when this, your holy temple was consecrated, hear the prayers of your holy people, and grant that in this place, for you there may always be pure worship, and for us fullness of redemption. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Amen. And so that is the prayer that we use every year. I did that this past year, but that was right at the end of Lent during Passiontide, and so we kept it very low key. I thought you don't want to have such a great celebration at that time of the year. We would put it off until we could expose that floor and have you sign all over again. So there's a method to the madness in what we were doing. I don't know if Mary Cunard remembers, but shortly after my return back home to Our Lady of Lourdes, a couple years ago, there was the Vandeven family reunion. And the family asked me to come and speak at that and give a little blessing upon all those Vandevens who showed up. And one of Mary's boys said something about coming back to Our Lady of Lourdes. Did you ever think you'd come back to be pastor? I said, absolutely, I thought I'd be. I didn't think it would be this soon, quite frankly. But it was a wonderful return home. And he made a comment about blessing the house that Broniak built. And I was very embarrassed by that. I'll be very honest with you. And I said, that is not true. That is not true. And he says, oh, I think it was. I am very aware of all those kind souls, many of whom are in this room here tonight, that were partaking in building of this grand church, the largest Catholic church north of Milwaukee. And so I was very grateful for them. But somehow, and I think it's because of Father Tim's pastorate, he often referred to me as the builder here. If I would ever retain that title, it would be the church with a small c, and that is the buildings and grounds of Our Lady of Lourdes with copper, unblack limestone, the air conditioning systems, all that we love here, that we celebrate year after year after year, week after week after week. But if there's anyone who came close to building the church with a capital C, it is this guy. And that was the bigger headache, not him. Well, sometimes, Shayla, huh? We had to live with him also. He had an incredible way of building up the people of God. Nobody that I have met and encountered has done that better than Father Conrad. And he would say, Jimmy, do what you need to do with the building. Go ahead and do it. Because I knew his heart was set on bringing people of two different parishes together. And quite frankly, friends, there were horror stories of other parishes of the diocese. I'll make a quick reference to that a little bit later. And he did not want to see that happen here. And so he spent all his time and effort to make sure that this place would come off as well as it did. But it wasn't Father Conrad's idea to merge these churches. He did not come here to New St. Joe's, this little church right here, with the intention of staying long. He did not come here to New St. Joe's certainly to think of merging parishes, and he certainly didn't come here to think that he'd be building a church, a small C, but because of his gifts and talents, he would build a church with a capital C. It was this guy's idea. Father Seamus and I were among his first ordinations here in the Green Bay Diocese. I think I was the first guy on January 3rd, after he came in the fall, Bishop Robert Banks, to be ordained by this man. He came here and realized that the Church of Green Bay was in a little bit of a crisis moment. He could foresee that we have all these churches floating around the diocese, and he was looking at the number of the priests and the age of the priests. And he knew that something had to change. And so he sent out a directive immediately upon his arrival that we've got to start working together. We've got to start thinking about perhaps shutting down some of these little tiny rural parishes throughout the diocese. This is primarily a rural diocese. But then those urban churches, especially in the city of De Pere, in the city of Manitowoc, in the city of Marinette, which he did not address. That was addressed by Cardinal Maida when he was here. And what a tragic merger that was, just because of all the fighting going on up there. They would tell you that themselves, of how they were trying to build a church into the Holy Family up there in Manitowoc. Marinette. Look at the churches in Appleton. What was the issue? Today we would never build churches 2 blocks apart from each other. Old St. Joe's is 2 blocks apart from St. Boniface, am I right? And people thought that Blaise Peters was nuts when he built all the way out here in the middle of nowhere, huh? Now look at us today. But all these churches were built with a national flair to it. Up in Antigo, I belong to St. Mary's, the Bohemian church. 2 blocks away, in Little Antigo, is St. Hyacinth's, the Polish church. Across town, St. John the Evangelist, an Irish-German church, okay? Because different cultures, different heritage, different languages were being celebrated in these places. And so Annie would always farm in bohunks to come and take over St. Mary's and St. Wenzel's right outside of town. And so not only do we have a directive, let's start to work together, let's start to merge some of these parishes, but for those churches that were built in downtown areas, in urban areas, they would not be approved unless they would seat 1,000 people to reduce the mass load, to reduce the number of masses, so the priests weren't having 3, 4, and 5 masses a weekend, because associate pastors would be eventually phased out because of a lack of numbers. Folks, Father Seamus and I take vows of stability. We're not going to go far. We will be here for the rest of our lives, like it or not. And so the word in the streets was that these 2 places would have no problem merging. That would be a cinch for St. Mary's De Pere, downtown, and St. Francis Xavier merging. Perhaps when St. Francis was struck by lightning and when the bell tower and steeple fell into the church building, that would have been a good time for them to relocate, huh? They built right on the same footprint, 2 blocks away from St. Mary's. But one of the reasons and one of the rumors why this place would merge, these 2 parishes, so readily is because of this. Their grade school mergers were among the first in this diocese, and one of the most successful mergers, quite frankly, even to this day. Okay? They had a little secret to success, and the faithful of those 2 parishes on the east side came together to establish Notre Dame De Pere Elementary School. And so people thought, well, if they did that so well, the parishes would merge beautifully as well. Not so much, huh? Even to this day, when all of a sudden St. Mary's wanted to move out to the middle of nowhere, now look what's happening out there, wouldn't that have been a decent time to merge? No. There's still 2 independent parishes, and they have 2 full-time priests running those parishes, and together they're smaller than Our Lady of Lourdes. Okay? So, all of a sudden, we had to think on this side of the river of what we were going to do ourselves in order to have this come alive. So I think you know that this is our firm foundation right here. St. Boniface at the corner of 4th and Grant, Old St. Joseph Church, St. Joseph on the Box, that was known when it was first built, not that building, but 2 buildings before that, at the corner of 1st Street and Grant Street. Different national parishes once again. So then, all of a sudden, not unlike the east side, perhaps one of the keys for our success of our merging, not only Conrad's people skills and love for the people of God, was that as we read in the Christmas narratives, and a child shall lead them. Okay, we're talking about Jesus. That when Jesus is leading Mary and Joseph, all will be well. And they don't just survive, they thrive when Jesus is there. A little child sometimes brings families together, huh? How many of you remember this building? I've never seen this before in my life. That's St. Boniface. St. Boniface School. Before, Melissa, you went to St. Boniface. Look at that grand old building. I would have done anything to keep that alive and to renovate that baby and to turn it into something nice. But there is that apostolate which was sponsored back then by the Bay Settlement Franciscan Sisters of the Holy Cross. The Franciscan Sisters of the Holy Cross, Bay Settlement, were running that school until that was raised, and all of a sudden, you know that building, that was put up. And that building is still very much in existence. I was talking to a young college student who yesterday moved into the 2nd floor of that building, because that is now on the 1st floor, St. Albert College facilities. On the 2nd floor is a dorm, and then you see the big gymnasium there that rocks against 4th Street, which is used by facilities for St. Albert College. So that was part of their firm foundation. I know there are some people in this room that went to this school. Remember that? St. Joseph School, right across the street and down the block, just a half a block over from Old St. Joseph Church. Father Seamus knows this as his office. Because in our time, this became the art hall for many, many years. Even to the point that we had to gut the inner lobby in order for the elevator shaft there to accommodate some of our students who were art majors who could not get into that building. When was that raised, Amy? 8, 9, 10 years ago? A little more than 10 years? Well, the Bush Art Center, and then you moved into that new building right there on 3rd Street. So then, but what happened is, Abbot Killeen took over as our 2nd abbot of St. Norbert Abbey. And we were experiencing tremendous growth in the Norbertine order, that he was not only putting all of our different apostolates and entities into separate corporations, but he wanted us to spread out. So the TV and radio stations left Main Hall and left the baseball field area, went downtown Green Bay to our old high school, which today is WBAY. Okay? Then, at the same time, the high school left the top floor of Boyle Hall and went to the former Nicolay High School, the predecessor to Westby Pier High School, to form Abbot Penney's. The Abbey moved out to the other side of the river, to where Seamus and I live today. And the parish at the same time moved from right there on Grant Street, right on the Box River, with the attached priory right next door, and we came out here. I apologize for these horrible pictures, the quality, because I'm taking pictures of pictures and taking pictures of news clippings, but this is where we are today. We are right here. Our new church is right here. Got it? So this is what Father Blaise did, built way out here in the middle of nothing, in the middle of nowhere. And so this was built in 1961. And you notice the convent here. This school here was sponsored by the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, okay, who ran St. Joseph Academy. Okay? So they would get their feet wet in teaching young kids. Those who showed great promise were sent out of here to go teach at the academy. Same with Norbertines. We started at the high school, apostles. Seamus and I both did. Premontre, Abbott Pennings, and then we were eventually sent to St. Edward College. Seamus has been there ever since. And is beloved by those students. So, when you see this, Father Blaise took a page of American Catholicism. Building a church was secondary. You built a school. Because you raised kids in the faith. That was a huge part of American Catholicism back in the day. Look it up. You did whatever you could to preserve the faith, and you built schools. This school was built for 400 kids. Double grades of everything. Okay? And so, many of you remember, this is where Mass was celebrated. This street right here is an extension of St. Joseph Street. Right down the street here, right across the street from us. That continued here to go in the front of the school, and you parked in the back, and people tell me all the time that they set up chairs on Friday afternoons, took them down on Saturday, Sunday afternoons, so the kids could play in the gym. So that's the way this place looked like in 1961, right where we are. This did not exist. This was a street, okay? Well, then what happens is Father Blaise decides it's time to build a new church. What you might find interesting, someday when we're at a fish dinner, I'll show you, right here in the lobby downstairs outside the dining room, there's double doors at the end of the stairwell. You open up those doors, you go into the room, you go down 4 steps, and you go into the storage room, and you see a bricked up doorway. Father Blaise built a tunnel here to attach to a new church. That was part of his vision. And guess what? It wouldn't happen. Why? Bishop Weissistel said, you're not building a church. Why? I think our lawyers in the midst here know exactly what's going on. He wasn't paying his subsidy to the high schools. And the bishop was miffed by that. You've got the Carondelet sisters here, who own and sponsor St. Joseph Academy. You've got the Norbertines here, who own and sponsor Premontre and Abbott Pennings, and you're not paying your assessment? If I did not pay the assessment to high school, Carol would be happening to me right now, huh? I'd probably be gone. So what did Father Blaise do in his infinite wisdom? He built a chapel that he attached to the school. Here's the chapel. He did not build a church. He built a chapel. And now you know why the crazy Mass schedule is going on here. 4:30 on Saturday. Remember back in the day? Seamus, you and I both had these Masses. 8, 9:15, 10:30, 11:45. I was just getting wound up with my homily when all of a sudden the cars were going for the next Mass. And then remember when all of a sudden Conrad came here, this accordion wall opened up where we would have 250 people in this church and 200 people on the gym floor listening in, where you'd hear yourself preaching back at yourself because the echo was so bad. So we continue to do that for quite some time. Keeping in mind the directive of this guy that says, what are you going to do to start working together? And so these two men did their best to work together. Our dear buddy, Father Charlie Brooks, a priest of the Green Bay Diocese. And folks, he was a kind, gentle man. Remember when he wasn't behind an altar, he was on a motorcycle. Or he was on a snowmobile, huh? And then he was transferred to the Bean Snappers. Down there, and where does that city, Macville? Charlie Brooks wanted this new parish in the worst way because he just fell in love with the people of St. Boniface. And unfortunately for him, the bishop decided for historical purposes, this would be a Norbertine parish served out of St. Joseph Priory on the college campus. And so I still remember to this day at Dwayne getting up at our wonderful coming together as one party out at the Swan Club. and where he honored Father Charlie. He said, Charlie, we're so sorry because you have such mixed emotions, because we know you must leave us, and that you did not want that to happen, and the people of God do not want that to happen to you. Being quite the gentleman that he is, he went off. And Lynn, did he build that church? Was built before him?
He walked into it.
He walked, Father Zimmer was building it.
He walked halfway into it.
And Father Zimmer died in the parking lot.
And then he made some changes.
Yes, he made changes, yep, And we'll leave it at that, won't we? And we gave him a nice gift to help make that happen. So Charlie Brooks was a great guy. And this is the Mass that I'm telling you about. This is when we all came together as one, and we wanted to celebrate our new heritage as a parish. And so that was held over at St. Norbert Abbey. Father Seamus and I are there somewhere. There's the Norbertine community, and there's all of you spread all over this grand Abbey church. And there we are, Conrad and I, with the abbot in the middle, and enjoying this very much. So, folks, after doing this, and then having two sites. Remember what we called it? There was a wonderful competition, not a competition, but a questionnaire going on. What would the name of our new church be? You want to know the names? Look at the window on the east wall. Okay? Over there in the church, we have any number of people. Kateri Tekawitha, Catherine Drexel, Cardinal Bernardine is in that window. There's modern day saints, saint members of our parish up there in that window. St. Thomas the Apostle, Thea Bowman, all these people, that names that were being presented here. And as I always kind of sarcastically say, most streets near parish is named after the church. This parish was named after the street. Lourdes Avenue was here before the church was here, and that was an overwhelming name that we brought to this place. And after, remember what we did in the Mass schedule? To make it extraordinarily equitable, 4 o'clock Mass here on Saturday night, 5:15 downtown. Okay, why downtown? Because those businesses that were closing at 5 o'clock on Saturday night, they could sneak on over to Mass and just walk to Mass afterwards. 4, 5:15, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30. And trust me, there were plenty of weekends where I was alone, or Father Conrad was alone. Talk about cutting the homily short. Seamus would have no problem getting back. You could have walked. He could have walked from 7:30 Mass to 8:30 Mass. You know what I mean? They didn't perfect timing. But we needed help. And while Conrad and I would go home at night and talk about how long can we do this, even though there were 2 priests, and I had a full-time gig elsewhere, by the way. How long are we going to do this? Well, we called in some friends to help us. And actually, they came to us. Fred is here somewhere. I think Fred came to us, and we put him in charge of what was called back then the core team, the core committee, where we sat down, and if I remember, talk about a true lawyer, our first meeting was not in this room. Our first meeting was not in the convent next door. It was not at St. Boniface. It was in the President's dining room in Simpson Burnham Memorial Union at St. Albert College. And you sat us down, and we talked about when are we going to do what the bishop asked, have a church where we can cut down this Mass schedule, we can all get together as one. And we enjoyed that very much. And then we put the other partner to work to raise the money. I still remember Tommy, he's been a good friend, he's my twin step cousin. He said, dang, when we asked him to start raising the money, he said, I walk down the streets of Green Bay, people see me coming, they go the other road, I go across the street. I remember that vividly. I remember Tommy taking me to go see a donor because Father Conrad went away on a sabbatical, and all of a sudden I was appointed administrator at this point. And they took me to a place, to the law firm. We went to the law firm where we sat down with a donor. And we showed him pictures, conceptual drawings of what we wanted to do. And Fred, you were probably there too because it's your office also. And we were there and we made a pitch to this guy. And I think we asked for $1 million. These people were very generous, by the way. And then all of a sudden, at the end of this meeting, he started pounding the conference table And plug your ears, folks. He says, "This is horseshit. This is never going to happen." And I'm sitting there and across the table and thinking, oh dear God, oh dear God. You know, I'm just a simple vocation coordinator. What am I doing here? I'm recruiting for the order. I walked out of there, and I must have been as white as my habit, and Tom Wolinchik says, "Well, that wasn't bad." That's exactly what you said to me, Tom, and I thought, are you kidding? Is it going to get worse than this? I enjoyed that time very much. So, we had to come out of ourselves and think about what might this place look like out there in the front yard. So, we had to go get some ideas. And being a liturgist and having a background in architecture, I knew of some recent builds. And so we traveled the world with a song that we're singing. We decided to take it on the road to look at what other churches were doing. And so we got in a bus that looked like that. And thank God Shirley Partridge was there to drive the bus for us. Does she look familiar? Robin, is that how it went? You didn't drive the bus. Is this a lie? Terry drove the bus. Did it look like that? Yeah. Did it look like Reuben Kincaid? Huh? Not bad, huh? Terry was driving the bus. And if you come to 7:30 Mass in the morning, you'll find out he's still driving the bus around here. He just is. What a wonderful tour that was. Remember, you took us all the way down to St. Julie Billiard Catholic Church of Tinley Park, down by 95th Street or so. Excuse me, I just went a little too far. There's St. Julie Billiard. I knew people here would not like that. How many of you were on that bus ride? Uh-huh. Look at that. There's a few people here. This is not far from Midway Airport. It looks like Midway Airport, doesn't it? It's crazy. And looking on the inside, this is a little grooving. I did not care for this church, but I wanted people to think differently because our churches were shoeboxes, long and rectangular, and that works. But open up your minds to something different. The reason why I do not like fan churches or circular churches is it promotes distance from the altar. Do the math. Think of your geometry, huh? All of a sudden, the further away, the bigger the pews are, the longer the pews are, you really encourage people to stay away from the altar if you're dividing up the pizza. Okay? But nevertheless, we had a fun time talking, and then we went straight west from there to St. Francis Assisi Catholic Church in Orland Park, Illinois. I loved this church because it was noble brick. I had a hunch that Pete Hine might just enjoy this place. It was done nobly. Look at that bell tower standing up in the air, looking so noble and so beautiful. We had a long time to talk about that, what we liked and what we disliked, as we made our way to Sun Prairie. That was our last stop on the tour, and that was by design for a couple of reasons. Number one, the pastor at that time, Father Larry Backey, today Monsignor Backey, good, decent man. He's dynamic. Because we weren't just going to come and tour the church, we were going to go there for Saturday night Mass. Okay? And so we went there for Mass, but also that church was set up antiphonally, just like ours, which is strange for a diocesan parish to be set up that way. For a parish that's sponsored by the Benedictines, Carthusians, Camaldules, Cistercians, or Norbertines, that's normative, what you see in this church. It's normative. It's not the exception. It's the way it is. I've given several homilies since I've been here already about eyelash to eyelash. Okay? Choir 1, choir 2, choir 1. It's the heartbeat of the church. And people on that tour fell in love, not only with his dynamic personality, his preaching, but the beautiful look of the building as well. And so we came back home, and after we interviewed, Lynn, how many architectural firms? Probably 3. We came up that we wanted to have something that felt like St. Albert the Great here on our property. But if you remember, Lynn, that was all cinder block. Remember that? And not so much. I think somebody should check Hine's heartbeat right now when we talk about cinder block in a church. And so all of a sudden, we gave our architects plenty of ideas of what we wanted to see, And somehow, they knew that there was a tunnel out here and that we could have a freestanding church out in the front yard here and connected underground with the tunnel. And I do not have any virtual images of that church because I think I shredded them that very same night. That church looked just like this. Lynn says Pizza Hut. This is St. Bernard Church in Appleton, which was the same architect that we hired. And remember, it's a church in the round, and this was an award-winning church by any number of standards when it was built. But George, God love him, did not listen to us. He came back here and put that there and said, we'll connect it underground to the tunnel, we'll call it a day. Why are we paying for this money? If this is something you did 25 years ago and we're just going to rehash it on the front yard. That's not at all what we said. And we were so disappointed. Remember, folks on that core committee, Tommy, Fred, Lynn, Pete, you were probably there, many of you were there. He came back with this. Now you're getting closer. And he listened to us. And this is what we began to work off of, a beautiful artist rendering of what this place could look like. It took us so many months to tweak this, as you can imagine. And so all of a sudden, we're about ready to go live. And so then all of a sudden, I think, when was it? Was it in February of that year that all of a sudden we got together for a little party out here in the front yard. A groundbreaking party to build our new church. And so that started right here. For those of you who are young, this was New St. Joseph Church, which we call Lourdes on Lourdes, as opposed to Lourdes on Grant. Lourdes on Lourdes, Lourdes on Grant. And so for that groundbreaking mass, here we are. Abbot Dwayne came because he would preside over this groundbreaking. And right after the mass, we would go out in the front yard and we would have a beautiful groundbreaking, which Conrad had every denomination, every demographic of this parish represented in that groundbreaking. That's why you saw as many shovels as you did. Now, as we're there to break ground, Abbot Dwayne couldn't help but notice that right behind you there's mounds of dirt. Bold construction already broke ground about a month before that, huh? And he said, look at these two overzealous priests for a groundbreaking ceremony. It's already completely broken. It's not so important that you knew who was running the show. It's probably, Razor Carter Vandenbrugel back then. That was here. Razor was part of that, as many of our different venue folks from this parish were as well. So there we are at the wonderful groundbreaking. Conrad is addressing the faithful. I think every TV station was here because it was a beautiful event, surely. And then all of a sudden we heard from the boss. There you go. There you go. And Lynn, you held it together. And you know that I was in that hole every day for over a year. And Conrad was worried about everything under the sun, where you held us all together. Am I right in saying that? You would not take it. You are the one that kept it all together. And you didn't even need a good lawyer overlooking your shoulder, like Fred seems to be doing there. And of all of us breaking ground, look who is the dirtiest. Conrad. Look at him, he's getting dirt all over. Little Adam Rich. Is that Adam Rich? Yeah. Tom, am I right? Is that Adam? Yeah, well, I think that's little Alex Fern. And so there they are. And so there we are for a great, great groundbreaking ceremony. And so while we were trying our best to oversee this project, and certainly Fred and Lynn and Tommy were helping us, these are the two that were constantly at our side. And thanks be to God. Am I right in St. Pete? You already lived on St. Mary's? No, you were not there yet. Because my buddy Dick was 2 houses in, right there in St. Mary Street. You could throw a football and land at his house. Pete, you would eventually move within the shadow of our bell tower and build your beautiful home there. But Pete and Dick, and not only were they at the top of their game, but let me tell you folks, the best people in the world to work with, because they take this stuff so seriously. So here we are, breaking ground. For those of you who are young here, this is the building that you're looking at right here. This was our church. And this bell tower right there was 33 feet into the sky, and that had 3 bells in it. No, they had 3 plastic cones in it with speakers in it. And right there, when you go, Colin, right outside that door, there's a sacristy, and there's this big carillon machine with the worst sounding tapes that we would play that would crank out any number of Marian hymns or whatever. It was so bad that we decided in, 2 minutes that baby's coming down. We're going to build a real bell tower with real live bells that would swing. So, folks, notice that doorway? You walked into that doorway tonight, okay? Because you go up those 3 steps. That used to be a street that would go from Lourdes Avenue and swing around here to Suburban Drive. And there is where the 3 steps are. Here is the ramp. Got that? Okay. Here's the ramp. Here's the wall. The only thing we did is we bolted and we blocked all this up, got rid of this windowsill, drywalled all of it. This is where we come every single day to come up here to get into the social hall, to get to the bathrooms. That was New St. Joe's. And so what we literally did is we built from west to east. And we started with the St. Mike Chapel. Okay? Unfortunately, that meant that we had to destroy kind of the front entrance to the school, which really looked like quite a beautiful cloister garden. A nice cobblestone walkway from the church to the school. All these beautiful flowering crab trees that all got sawed off and they're taken down. And then all of a sudden, these are the 2 trusses, the 2 beams that the trusses would lay upon. That would be St. Michael of the Saints Chapel. And so you might think that there I am overseeing the construction. In reality, I'm asking the village if they have any homily hints for the following weekend. So there we are. But then here is the St. Mike Chapel with these trusses. And remember, Lynn, that's all George could talk about. Trusses, 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 trusses. And I thought this place cannot look like O'Hare Airport. It cannot, because what he had in mind, I said, these trusses must look churchy. And we literally went down to Milwaukee and we viewed a place that he had in mind. I don't know if it was Mayfair Mall or where it was. This is what I have in mind. Well, he ended up developing some beautiful trusses. I could live with about half of them. Okay? Both in the small church and the big church. Truss. But they're wonderful. And these are the side trusses as we're putting up the big church. Okay? And keep in mind, we're starting from the west, and the crane is literally driving out of this building, as you can see here, to get to the east wall. Okay? If you will notice, Father Seamus and I are the only ones who cannot see Jesus in the window because of where our presider's chair is. Okay? Everybody else in the church can see him because he's hiding behind one of these trusses. Okay? Was that a mistake? No. This window was designed to be much lower. And then halfway through, a donor came forward who said they love music, we love music, and gave a very large gift that not only included the concert grand piano that is still rocking our church in the church, but also a Casablanca organ, a French organ from Canada. Well, all of a sudden, there came that wall that protruded out, which means the window had to go thrust up about 10 feet. That's why Jesus is hiding behind the truss. You don't say no to a gift like that. You know what I mean? You make it happen, you make it work. And so there we are with the crane moving its way towards Suburban Drive to get out of here. So we lobbed off that bell tower, that fake bell tower from New St. Joseph Church. See where Mike is seated? That's the bell tower. But it went 33 feet up into the sky with across the top 3 fake bells. And we had this beautiful idea to make that an outdoor grotto and stuff Mary inside the bell tower. Up on high, where Bernadette would be looking down from below, just like Lourdes. So that's what we did. So then we took the cross off the building. There's Dick. I apologize for the blurry image here. There's Dick inspecting the cross. And of course, the first idea would be we take it up this bell tower and put it up on top of our new bell tower. But what fits a 33-foot bell tower does not necessarily fit an 88-foot bell tower. It's not the same size. It's not the same scope, okay? So this little cross would be looking like a cross around my neck, you know what I mean? Instead of being something bold and beautiful. So what do we do? Do we throw out the cross? No. It's on Suburban Drive. That is the cross that was taken off this bell tower. The cross that was taken off the steeple from St. Boniface was given to us by St. Albert College just before I got here, Carol. And that is what we use to venerate now on Good Friday. That grand old cross, that old rugged cross from St. Boniface. There's the cross from New St. Joe's. And so it adorns our space quite nicely. Here you go, just seeing some pictures of our church. That is the trumpeter's loft. That was never built to be a choir loft. It's too small. The choir is always going to be in that back corner. This is a trumpeter's loft that you can trumpet into the gathering space and trumpet into the main church as well. It's wide open if you notice. You can throw a football from the gathering space into the church, and there's no obstructions for that. And then that window there, as I said to you before, is the setting sun. And that is order out of chaos, which is what baptism is. It's floating over the baptismal font, all by design. Here we are with the sign that used to say St. Joseph's Congregation, and all of a sudden we had it stripped and have new signs put on it. Our Lady of Lourdes, that was put up just to remind people of the Mass schedule in this place. We had many wonderful workers who helped us. This happens to be Carl Kirschlein, who owned Great Northern Stained Glass. On the left, he is taking out those windows from St. Boniface, and he is on the right installing the Good Shepherd window. It's Christ's body, it's Carl's head. How do you like that? And Jesus is not holding a shepherd's staff, but he's holding a mallet. That is so Carl Kirschlein. And he's standing in the Reconciliation Chapel looking into the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, if you notice that. And so all those furnishings that were so grand from St. Boniface came over here, and we put them to work in new ways. The Stations of the Cross are up on high. They're down low now. That you can look at them and see them, where you literally walk them. You have to walk the Stations of the Cross in this church. You don't stand in one place and look at all 14 at once. You have to move on from one to see the next. You are walking the Stations of the Cross. They're at our level, that you can peer right at those figures, especially Jesus. Okay? Those stained glass windows were high polished, washed, and re-leaded, put down at our level to remind us that they walked this face of the earth with us, and that we are the saints in the making. They're looking at us, we're looking at them, we're learning from each other, huh? And so, what a wonderful experience that was. Robin, I met her here when I came to this church. I don't know if Father Seamus was with me. I don't know if I was still a frock, Robin.
You were a frock.
I was a frock. And there was a buzz around Chicago that I would ended up coming here to work with Conrad or to succeed Conrad. It would happen 30 years later, huh? But so Robin saw me here, and Robin, were you in here at that point?
Up here on the stage.
You were up on the stage was her office. And so when she heard that I might be coming here, she thought, well, what does that mean for her? Will she work here? Where will her office be? And so in this next picture, I'm pointing out the trumpeter's loft. And I said, up there we have a TV tray for you with a nice little clipboard. That will be your office. We did not have an office for this guy yet, okay? Because he's only 12 years old at this point. And he's not ordained, but at this point, but Conrad thought the best place for him would be at the foot of the cross as a good deacon, and so that Michael would eventually come our way. Am I right, Michael, in saying a lifelong parishioner?
Yes.
A lifelong parishioner with St. Boniface, who would eventually become our deacon. And then there's another one of those sacred relics. from St. Boniface, and that was the bell up there in that steeple, in that bell tower below the steeple. And there it is. That is here. So we had to literally chisel through the ceiling of the gathering space in that church, which was the original gathering space before Hine Construction put on that grand gathering space. That's right there on Grant Street, matching the brick perfectly. When that church was built, there was just a little tiny 5 by 5 foot bell tower, which is the gathering space. So we blasted through that floor, the ceiling, and we're dragging that bell down the stairs. And that bell was sent to Antwerp, Belgium, am I right? Antwerp, Belgium. And so what happened is we, in classic Catholicism, we wanted 3 bells. Bong, bong, bong. We had it before NBC, okay? Bong, 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 the perfect sounds. And so we had 2 bells, brand newly made, to complement that 1 bell, and here is arriving on our campus. There's the old bell. In the picture on the left, you see the brand new bell, where that guy's hand is. You see that? Here's one of the brand new bells, and the other one is behind it. Here's the old bell from St. Boniface. Okay? And so then, what happens is we hoisted it up. It was amazing how quickly this happened. Pete, you remember that? When also it was hoisted up, and then it was rigged electronically. We heard it ringing like immediately in all 3 of them. So there we are, dropping it in before the roof was put on the bell top. Huh? And I think the reason why that happened so quickly is we had 3 little saints joining us to make sure that that was done so well. And isn't that a beautiful picture as compared to this? It wasn't all sweetness and light, though, in our building experience. Peter, how long did this take? A year?
Yeah.
It took over a year to build this grand place. But I call this the agony precedes the ecstasy. I don't know how many of you remember this, but I got a call on my little Nokia phone. My little Nokia phone back in the day was not a flip phone. And was told to get over to Lourdes quickly because there was a massive storm one night. Remember that, Pete? And all of a sudden I came here and there was complete silence as I saw Pete's workers, both construction workers, all the people here who just remained in silence because a massive storm came through, and basically, if I'm right, Pete, it was the south side walls. The innermost wall blew over in the storm and crushed the outermost wall, and you can see what's going on there and how horrible that was. Here's another picture of that. Okay? And so we just did things differently. We tightened things up a little more and saw to it that would never happen. You know, it was like a house of cards coming down only on those 2 south walls is where that had happened. The walls in the St. Michael Chapel, which were quite high and large, did not come down. Another agonizing moment, and I don't know how many people remember this. This was probably as far as we were with a brand new copper roof, and a major hailstorm came through. And this place looked like adolescent's skin problem on their face, pockmarked everywhere. And I remember this, we're not even opening anywhere near open this church. I'm thinking, if we are going to deal with this for 150, 200 years, we got to go in a different direction than copper. It has never happened since, has it, Lynn? Never happened. Thank God insurance paid for that, I think. That was all removed because it was all hail sale. You know those things? That's what happened here. And there was one last agonizing moment. Not Bishop Rickon visiting us. He wasn't even a bishop at this point. Anybody have an idea as to why I'm showing that picture? Anybody see anything? This is a very subtle pic, Tommy?
The old altar.
Yeah.
The old, brand new altar It arrived about 1 week before dedication. This is now downtown at the Bishop's Chancery, the Bishop's Chapel. Am I right? There you see the altar in the bottom right-hand corner. There he is standing at the ambo, matching chairs, matching everything. The Bishop's Chapel seats 150 people. It looks fine there. It's perfect there. This church seats 1,200 people, easily. It looked like a TV train. Are you kidding me? In a church this size, and the materials that were used were contact paper, wooden contact paper, looking contact paper around plastic tubing. No way in heck. How do you dedicate a church that doesn't have an altar? You can't. You can't. Crisis moment. Here we are. I don't know how many of you were there that night, and I am just crushed thinking, what are we going to do? And here's little Father Tim Shilcox in a corner. We're like, some help he is. He didn't chime in at all until Conrad and I looked at him, and he had his sketch pad out, and he started drawing. He designed in one night altar, ambo, ambry, presider's chair, all these church furnishings. And we're thinking, Tim, it's wonderful, it's beautiful. It's the best work Tim has ever done. I've seen a lot of stuff that he's designed. This is his absolute best. And I think, what good does that do? We're on a week from now. And our friends from Local Structures, Brad Walensky, went to work. He pulled his men off every other job. And this became their labor of love in order for us to have an altar for dedication. And talk about a grand looking altar and furnishings. Timmy was at his best. To celebrate that, we had to take ownership. I know I'm going long, so I'm going to start to move this a little more quickly. Taking ownership, I asked you to come here tonight to sign your life away. If you're not going to do that tonight, we'll get people to get you to do it after this weekend's masses. Knock yourself out. But there's Mel and Jan, and they're on their knees, and they're doing what you are going to do tonight. There's Reed and Todd and Beth getting creative with their little hearts of love. All sorts of things. You saw these when you walked in tonight, didn't you? How beautiful that was. That was after a fish dinner. What was it? February 19th was that? So it was when we gave tours of this place as to what this would look like. John, Carol, there you are. You're here as well. Okay, the Elders family, I think Paul and Valerie are going to pay for like an 8-foot by 8-foot plot to add all the additional family names that they're going to sign around this baby. McGinley's, you're dear friends of ours, 6 o'clock mass people. The Hine family, you saw it all. There's Mark and Seal. Another thing that we did along the way is we had to shut down St. Boniface Church, which is tough for people, especially those who were ordained in that church, those who were baptized in that church, those who were married in this church, many of you, those who went to school across the street, the old school or the newer school. Father Conrad handled this beautifully. Where you think last year, August 20th, our Eucharistic procession was beautiful. We did that many, many years ago. As we would declassify St. Boniface Church. There's an old name for it, but it's just, we used to call it from sacred to profane usage. And people misunderstood that because they thought profane means they're doing profane things. It just means we're not doing sacred things in there. Thankfully, that church was, of course, sold to the college. And you still have access to it for theater and music programs. But we then took the Blessed Sacrament out of that church and we marched it all the way down Grand Street, over the railroad tracks, took a left, what is that, 7th Street? I can't remember what street it is. Went all the way down to Helena, made its way here. There's Father Conrad. Why is he wearing red? I don't know. He should be wearing white. But Conrad has a thing for red. He thinks he looks like Conrad Cardinal Kratz. And so there he is leading the parade with all of our star mass servers. finally we're making our way a little closer to this property. You're going to notice some of yourselves in there. And then who's waiting for the Blessed Sacrament to arrive? Right here, right where he is right now, pouring a little champagne is our own Father Seamus. Check out that hair. I'm talking about me. Check out my hair. Check out my hair. There he is. Built of living stones, preparation for the day of dedication. An altar has arrived, so we called the bishop. We're on. Well, he didn't know anything about what was going on behind the scenes, thank God. Monsignor Shu knew what was going on. And so he arrives on campus. And you would normally think, as the bishop's delegate, to get us all in order, mass servers, lectors, everybody, that here's Monsignor Shu telling us what we're going to do on that Sunday. Wrong. There's Father Conrad telling him what we're going to do on that Sunday. And that is exactly what was going on there. And so there's Monsignor meeting our mass servers, who did such a beautiful job. There we are, walking in procession. If you have not attended a dedication of a church, it's very similar to an ordination of a priest or a bishop or a deacon. It is quite beautiful. Where's Jimmy? James the Greater, where are you? You haven't changed a bit. Look at you. Look at you. There you are. Just like tomorrow morning, reading during my Mass. There you go. I'm kidding about that. And there we are, finally about ready to make our last minute changes on a brand new altar designed by Father Tim. Deacon Harvey Quinette is with us. Here we have Seamus again, working behind the scenes together. Still knocking himself out. And the right side picture is that beautiful, beautiful icon that I found here. It was hiding in this building. That Father Rossi, who's on his knees there, he made that icon of St. Norbert, which I find so darn beautiful. There you see on the left is Seamus's beautiful floral display. On the right is our brand new candle that a classmate of mine made. And then over there is a gift from Abbot Gildas, who has an abbey, Norbertine Abbey, right outside of Lourdes, France, where he gave us a stone and wrote a beautiful letter to Father Conrad and me saying, maybe Mary, the Mother of God, when visiting Bernadette, stepped on that stone when presenting to her plans. And so that stone, which you still see, it's never left, the baptismal font is there for your usage. And then Conrad, sounding perhaps more like a Jesuit than a Norbertine, insisted that this be the inscription on our cornerstone, which is at the base of our bell tower. Someday, 5 pastors from now, they can remove that baby and see all the jewels and all the gems that are put in there. Right now, inside our altar are any number of relics of different saints that are in there. And if I'm correct, Lynn, any number of business cards of every person who worked in this church and wrote on our business card prayers and well wishes. That is embedded right where I stand at the altar. You remove that board, and we have not opened it since, I don't think. I have no intention to open it. Moving forward, folks. There's a beautiful, beautiful scene in season 3 of The Chosen, where Jesus is healing a man who's at Bethesda waters, and he wants to be healed, but nobody's there to push him in the waters. And so he's all upset, he's getting angry at God because when he's about ready to roll into the waters, when they start churning, nobody is there to push him in, and he's helpless. Everybody else gets healed, he doesn't. And Jesus says, the disciples get upset, why did you put him through this test? Why didn't you just do this? Why so dramatic? And then Jesus ends that particular episode and says, sometimes you have to stir up the waters. And so you saw my letter that came out to you on Monday. I have a series of letters coming your way, hopefully expressing to you how I'd like to see us stir up the waters here at Lourdes. You did that in the most profound way last Advent when I asked you to step up to the plate for ministries. How blessed is this congregation today by all of you who stepped up to the plate to read, to distribute communion, to hand out cookies or donuts after masses. I could never have asked for a response that has been as bold and beautiful as how you responded. We have something beautiful going on here. I have other things, now that all of these darn campaigns are behind us, of ideas of what I would like to see us do. Following in Father Conrad's footsteps, it is not my intention to build any churches with a small c anymore. Although there's rumors that many decent gifts are coming our way. That's what I'm hearing from the diocese. More about that later in a subsequent letter. But it's time for us to build a church with a capital C. And that is we take advantage of these 300 plus new families that have come our way. Why are you here? What are you seeking? What are you willing to give? I'm talking not about money here, I'm talking about programming. Last night, had a beautiful meeting with many young 20-year-olds, 20-year-old guys who are looking at ways that they can be involved and share their Catholic faith. Wade, you're one of them. How beautiful and what a blessing you are to us. Our school has seen the most significant growth in any institution in this diocese. When I came here, we had 162 kids. Today we have, what we have listed, 233? 162, 233, we are now back to double classrooms. How blessed are we? Here I am on my last day, my last tour of duty, back when I left you the first time. And there I am explaining that the abbot has asked me to go into full-time vocation ministry so I could go on the road. So that required me to leave Our Lady of Lourdes. Does anybody know who that little guy is?
Mason.
Huh?
He's a Mason.
He certainly is a Mason. That's little Travis Mason.
Yeah.
I dressed him up in a Norbertine habit, a little tiny habit, to tell him that, to tell people that I had to leave them. And that was one of the hardest days of my life. I'm tired of leaving places. And so wouldn't you know that 1 year after being here, I was sitting in the confessional on a Wednesday afternoon, 1 year ago this week, sitting in the confessions, and our principal called me, he texted me in the confessional, he knew where I was, and he sent me a note that said, 200, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. 200 kids in our school, because we have begun project, Lourdes 200. That would be to raise our enrollment immediately with 200 kids. Travis's child was our 200th student. What goes around comes around. Honest to God. I called him immediately. So folks, we had so much to celebrate. Remember that grand day last August at this time? And when we rededicated, people came together, people walked around this church. We placed Christ on our shoulders, raised him up high, and gave him a new home. I think we need to continue to do that. I'll be explaining to you in one of my subsequent letters what Tithing Tuesdays and Thirsty Thursdays are all about. It's all about the sacramentality of the church coming to you in a different way. There's no bourbon being served, just so you know. And folks, I'll be honest with you, I met last Tuesday night with all of our musicians from the parish. And this is my greatest priority right now, just so you know. I said I'm about building a church with a capital C to continue to put out the best music possible. And I will be looking for your help in that regard. I know not everybody is musical. I know that some parents are dealing with very young kids. But what I want to see, and if you just don't want me up there with a banjo, you do not want me playing a washboard, but music, it is what we need to do to honor the Lord to the best of our ability. Okay? And so that is one of many things that I'm going to be throwing at you that hopefully we will all get excited about. In conclusion, Father Greg Boyle, one of my great role models, Jesuit priest in East Central LA. I'm not going to say much about this book. Get it. It'll change your life. Tommy, you've read all of his books. They're beautiful indeed. Tattoos on the Heart. We're ministering to gangbangers for almost his entire priesthood as a Jesuit. all the wonderful experiences he had, all those who have gone before him, marked with the sign of faith, the hundreds of funerals that he's had right now of 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, because of gang violence. Tattoos on the heart, that people enter your mind and enter your heart, and they just don't leave. They just don't leave. Folks, I spent an hour and a half here on Monday afternoon reading every square inch of that floor in the gathering space. Unbelievable. Many of you are here today. Some of our kids on the playground are now the parents on our playground of kids in our school, in our faith formation program. And I realized that I never had a chance to sign the floor myself, because I was giving tours of this place with a hard hat on. I was standing where the baptismal font is, just showing you all around. And I decided tonight, after 2 hours of confession, I would change that. And so there's my signature in the sacristy, and Father Seamus will sign right after me, and then hopefully you will do the same. So folks, before we do that, my thanks to Carrie for, Carrie Gross. She's been with us for 2.5 years. She helped me tremendously at the college, being my assistant there, and then certainly when I was prior for many years. She and David are here all the time. You'll only see her at 10:15 Mass, okay? You don't usually sneak outside of that. Putting all sorts of different treats together with you with the help of Father Seamus. Nobody does it better than Father Seamus. So there's stuff to eat and drink. And then, Michael, right at your hip there, look at that. When you signed this floor 25 years ago, for the most part, it was all black and white. Now we're in living color, okay? See how things progress? Because you're in living color, do not feel that you have to draw right around, because Lynn was so darn helpful that she has recorded everything this week. Once all the carpet was removed, she's recorded everything, so we will keep that in our archives forever and ever, amen. And then guess what? She told me she's coming back after 10:15 Mass to take pictures all over again of your signatures in living color. Will you please be so kind as to date it? My buddy David, one of my chief masterers, reminded us that it might get a little edgy if you're signing on top of some of the yellow glue that's there, but please make yourself available. Please sign wherever you want. Don't sign up here on this level, you guys, because it's not real good, and there's tile up here. Go downstairs, sign. If there's too many people here tonight, do it after Masses, 4:30, 10:15, 8:15, 6 p.m., and feel free to sign your life away. That's all we ask you, because this is your home away from home. And so we thank you for your past signature. We thank you for your signature here tonight or this weekend. Monday morning, it's all getting covered up, folks. So this is your last chance. And why do we do it? We keep the main thing, for the greater honor and glory of God. As Father Conrad suggested 25 years ago, we do it all over again. Let's do our part to build up the church with a capital C. Thanks for your time, everybody.